Recording enabled.
Thank you.
Thanks, Slackbot.
Hello.
Continue.
All right. That's so hot.
What up, nerds? Welcome to another inanimate episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 325, recorded on Thursday, June 24th, 2021. Tonight, we're talking about the winner of the June poll pick, which was Rubber. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Randy!
How's it going, baby?
Fantastic.
How you doing? How you doing?
Better now.
That's what they say about me suddenly because you picked up on that so heavily. I'm happy that you're happy that we've integrated the Randu bump into the cast. I know that you're pleased.
Mm-hmm. It pleases me. Thank
you.
Oh,
I know. I can see the erection from here.
Last but not least,
it's a behind the scenes thing.
You're welcome. Last but not least, calling in from my immediate left, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, bitch? You boy? Firestone stains, burning rubber, boys.
Wow.
Eat my rubber.
Eat my rubber, bitch.
So you're exploding, not the heads. Firestone tires. Remember when them bitches were just blowing up?
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody.
Yeah.
This movie, I guess we'll get to it, but
yeah,
movie doesn't work if it's branded Firestone. It just doesn't.
Doesn't work at all. The killer in this movie's named Bob. Who would have thought?
Bob the Tire. Actually, Robert.
Well, Robert, but
he's a little more formal than you are, Bob.
He goes by Bob.
Robert the Rubber.
That's right. That's exactly
He's
right.
a killer condom.
I'm pretty sure that's because Robert, if you say it in the French accent, as the director is quite French,
like rubber.
Robert.
Robert.
Yeah, that's it.
It's Row-Bear.
Row your bear.
But if you say it quickly and with an accent, I think you can get rubber out of that. I think you can.
Sure.
Always wear a Robert. Am I right?
You should definitely come out with a line of condoms called the Robert. And your tagline is there, baby. It rhymes and everything.
It's just got my face right on it. Just.
I mean, yeah. Well, nothing's gonna make an erection last like your fucking mug. Right on the dick tip.
That's right. You can toss that Viagra. Just look at the condom wrapper right there, smiling back at you. That's all you need. All right, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here's your final reminder that our July poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this July. The theme for July is Hot Blood Summer. The 3 movies to vote between are Independence Day, Jaws, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Bob, how are those numbers looking? Is Jaws still on top?
Yeah, you know he is. Old Bruce. Bruce is riding high and mighty.
Yeah.
How are
those numbers looking?
Disconnected names of monsters. Sorry.
It's true. It's weird. Bruce is the name of the shark. Yeah, Jaws is definitely in first place, and then I Know What You Did Last Summer and Independence Day. It's going to take quite an act of Satan himself to dethrone Jaws for July.
All right. Well, that's fine by me.
Yes, indeed.
Satan must be stopped at every opportunity.
Make sure to get your votes in before the end of June. We'll see what wins and what we're talking about this July. In other Patreon news, this is your absolute final reminder This show is going to be dropping on Sunday, June 27th, which is the same day we're going to be reopening the You Pick the Flick tier. If you are a new listener, this is the only way you can pick a movie outright for us to review on the podcast. There are only 5 spots available. We open this quarterly, so 4 times a year, 5 spots available. They're super limited. They go very quickly, and we open that tier at an undisclosed time of day. You're just going to have to check our Patreon website throughout the day, and hopefully you'll pop into the right time and snag one of our You Pick the Flicks. Again,
We've
Sunday,
left a series of clues for you to follow.
Sunday, June
Find your
27th.
spot.
June 27th. What are you going to pick for us to flick?
What are you gonna pick? A series of clues, huh, Randy?
Series of clues.
You're up. You just really got a hard on for the rhymes today, the rhyme and taglines.
I don't know, man. It's
just in
hitting
him.
me. It's hitting me right. I'm an MC, baby. I got to rhyme.
You got to.
All right.
Got
Oh,
to.
God, yes, come with me.
Come.
That's another tagline for your
With me.
Robert Rubbers.
Always
Oh
wear
God, yes.
a
Come
robe.
with me.
Keeps you coming. Anyways, Juice, do you have
There's no
any
shortage. Oh, that's another one. Okay.
Juice, do you have any news?
I do. We have a brand new reaction video up on the YouTube page. That's youtube.com/straight chilling podcast. And we are talking about the new Candyman
Candyman.
trailer that just dropped earlier this week. That is going to be coming out in August. So just a couple months away, finally, supposed to be dropped last year, but got pushed back because of COVID. So yeah, me and Bob were just watching that, having a couple drinks and just sharing our thoughts. So if that sounds like something you're into, check us out. And I think other than that, my house is clean.
One final thing. If you are listening and following Let's Get Physical Media, we got our brand new episode number 21, which we cover our May pickups. It's now available everywhere you get your podcasts.
7 hours long.
Talk about, no, it's much shorter than this show, actually, but we talk about Blu-rays, 4Ks, most of them horror related, but not exclusively. So if you have an interest in collecting physical media, check out Let's Get Physical Media everywhere you get your podcasts. And now I believe my house is squeaky clean.
This house is clean.
Without further ado, we're getting into the main event. We're talking about Rubber, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob,
Juice.
you got this box, am I right?
I got it in my hand.
Sweet baby blue.
So sweet. It's so sweet.
Is this part of your
Now
May
tell me
pickup,
something.
Bob?
No, I think it's March. I think I got it just before that, actually.
Okay.
Yes,
Let me ask you this,
Randy.
Bob. Is the disc tire? Is there a tire printed on that disc?
As a matter of
There
fact,
is.
there is.
Okay.
Good call, Randy.
Good.
Look, it's rolling. Look at that.
I was about to be like, if somebody missed that opportunity, I just don't know the state of things anymore. I just can't. stand
How's that
by
album
and
art
not go
look,
through.
Bob? Pretty good.
the album art is
I'm gonna check
subpar,
inside.
to be honest.
Whoa.
There is no slip.
It does have a catchy little tagline on the bottom. Careful where you tread. That's hilarious.
Whoa.
That is hilarious.
Funny, gory, and downright insane.
It's
Says
maybe one
bloody
of those
disgusting.
things. Maybe.
Yeah,
Bloody
the word
disgusting.
downright's pulling a lot of weight there.
Downright. Yeah, so this is the movie Rubber. It's from 2010. It is written and directed by Quentin Dupieux. Runtime is about 82 minutes. Nice and tight.
Quinton.
Starring
Tepois.
Dupieux.
TP.
Quinton Tepois, I think is actually how it's said.
I think it's Quentin
Could be wrong.
first. I think it's
Quentin.
Quentin.
No, it's Quinton.
Is
I'm
it?
pretty sure. That's I have heard it pronounced that way in the several things I watched about this movie.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, that's what I get for not watching anything.
Well, looks like Quentin to me.
Quentin Dupieux.
This dude is obviously
Dupex.
Dupix. He's a French director. The plot
He's a
synopsis-
Frenchin.
Synopsis is as follows. A homicidal car tire, discovering it has destructive psionic powers, sets its sight on a desert town once a mysterious woman becomes its obsession.
I took Bob's Blu-ray.
European style.
He couldn't even read the back of the
Couldn't read it.
box.
It's
My
fine.
fault.
Basically says the same shit. Gentlemen, had you seen this movie before and would you recommend people check it out? Randy?
Yeah, I had seen this once before. I would say this is an odd movie. It's kind of a movie that lives and dies by self-awareness. So if you're going in for something that's like real dumb and just kind of like moves along or whatever, I'd say it's only half that. This movie moves too slow for that. So I don't know that I would recommend it unless you're looking for something that's very strange that you can kind of like sit and wander about for a while. But just if you're ready to be confused, yes. But otherwise, no.
All right, Juice, what about you?
I had seen this before, and something that kind of popped in my mind when I was watching this, and I watched another film by this director this week too, was this kind of like reminded me, I don't know why, of kind of like the Napoleon Dynamite of horror in a way. It's real kooky and offbeat, and I feel like this is a kind of in the horror realm, this is kind of like a cute novelty. So if you hear the idea, I'm about to watch a movie about a killer tire and that piques your interest in a curious kind of way, then yeah, go ahead and watch this, because that's all it is. I mean, it's
That's
cute,
quite literally all it is.
yeah, cute little novelty of a horror movie about a killer tire. And that's it. And they deliver that. So if that sounds completely stupid to you, then you will not like this film. So
You have to also be prepared for something experimental. Like this is experimental.
sure, yeah. And like kind of meta in a way, breaks the fourth
Very.
wall, very self-aware in strange ways. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a particular flavor. Some people are into it. I
Mhm.
could see a lot of people wouldn't be. So it's up in the air.
If you
It would
rock
appear
the
that most
vanilla,
people-
if you rock the vanilla sex, you won't like it.
No kink shaming, Bob. Okay, some people live and die by the vanilla.
Just giving the warning. That's all.
Well,
Look, man.
high end Bob over
Nothing
here.
wrong with the vanilla. Nothing wrong with it.
Bob kink shaming. Bob, had you seen Rubber before? Would you recommend?
I had seen it
Robert
before.
Rubbers.
It turns out I've forgotten the vast majority of what happens in this movie. I don't think I would recommend this really at all to anybody. It did not land for me. I remembered it, I think, a little more fondly than I came to realize on my second watch. It's not for me. It's fine.
Be
It's fine.
prepared to be bedazzled.
We'll get into it and whatnot.
So a very soft, if not recommended.
Softer
for
than a
Rubber.
Robert Rubber. Am I right?
Until you slam your eyeballs into my face on the condom packaging.
So let's see.
God, yes, come with
We
me.
got our
Come on.
cereals on the way, and we got our condoms on the way. All right.
That's right.
Those- Maybe we could put a condom in the like a prize.
Yeah,
The Robert
for
Rubber
children.
has a-
For the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, children
Look,
are
man,
the
everybody likes
only-
balloons,
Safe
bro.
Sex, 9-year-old.
Why is cereal only for children?
Never too soon to
Bob?
indoctrinate, Rob.
Sugary yabos don't have to be for children. Adults like yabos too.
I
Bob.
forgot
just-
that they were the yabos. Adults do like yabos.
It's just two circles with
Traditionally.
like milk trickling down them. It's very
Oh my
suggestive.
What?
There you go. Yabos cereal. Eat it.
Like nothing
Dude.
I'd ever smelled before in my life.
You were talking about like the Napoleon Dynamite horror movies, and that made me. Have you guys ever seen a movie called The Greasy Strangler?
No, you've talked about
I know
it
of
quite-
it, but
quite
you've
a
talked
lot,
about
yeah.
it.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's like the Napoleon Dynamite of horror movies to me. It's got
I would
like, the
agree.
super weird comedic actors that are doing very dry deliveries, and they like linger on jokes too long and like repeat jokes in a certain very bizarre way. It's very deadpan but bizarre. It's I don't know, that movie is something to behold. So yeah, check that out. Anyway, yeah, that's a piss poor recommend from the Straight Chilling crew as far as Rubber is concerned. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right. I got the plot synopsis typed up. If you'll indulge me, I'll blast through what
That
bizarreness
should be about 2 sentences. Yes.
happens.
I hope so.
It's a paragraph. I got a paragraph for you.
Here we go.
Here you go.
Wow. You really
Strap
put
in.
in the extra hours.
Strap in with your strap-ons. All right. Movie opens up with a car pulling up. It just hits a bunch of chairs that are strewn about the street. A cop gets out of the trunk. He gives a speech about how all great films contain an element of, quote, no reason, because life is filled with shit that happens for no reason. He pours out a glass of water and says the film you're about to watch is an homage to no reason. The cop, turns out, is addressing an actual audience of people in the movie who are issued binoculars so they can witness the events of the film from a distance. A tire then rises up out of the sand and finds out it has psychokinetic powers. It uses its powers to blow up a can, a crow, a rabbit, and eventually the head of a truck driver that runs him off the road. Tire follows a female motorist to a motel and watches her shower. The audience is fed a poisoned turkey and they all eat it and die, except for one wheelchair-bound veteran. The cop from the very beginning comes back to investigate a string of murders that happen at the hotel. When he gets word of the audience members dying, he dismisses his fellow cops, saying the show is over and nothing is real. He then lets a cop shoot him twice to prove nothing would happen. He gets shot, and indeed he is fine. He immediately takes it all back when hearing about the lone audience member surviving and continues his investigation. The cops team up with the female motorist that the tire has been following around, and they attempt to trick the tire into blowing up a mannequin strapped with dynamite to it. So it will then blow up itself. The plan fails. The cop ends up just shooting the tire with a shotgun. The tire is then reincarnated into a tricycle and kills the last remaining audience member. The cop drops off the female motorist at her car, and we are left with an image of the tricycle rolling off into the distance with an army of tires following it to the Hollywood Hills. Roll credits.
Yep.
So what does that mean, boys?
So I will say I started this movie, and as I started it, I was like, I know I've seen this before. And I was like, think of one scene or one plot point for this film. And I couldn't think of anything.
Oh, really?
Now, as I started watching it, you know, things were coming back to me. I was like, okay, yeah, I remember this scene. I remember this plot point. But before, I challenged myself. I was like, do it. Think of something. And I was like, can't do it. And the thing is, I think I had a very similar experience to Bob in this. Maybe a little bit more positive, but I remember, like, in my mind, despite not being able to think of any particular scene or plot point, I remembered this in my mind for being like, hey, that was pretty good, or like, that was okay. That was better than I thought it was going to be. And I think that's the trick of this film, especially for first watches. Because when you hear the idea of it's a horror movie about a killer tire, your expectations plummet to the ground. So when you watch it and you think like, okay, that's okay, that's fine. It leaves a more like positive impression, I think, on your mind. But coming back to this, it was much worse than I remember it in my mind being. So very similar to Bob.
I want to talk about
Go ahead.
The very beginning of this movie where the cop sort of frames the film, and he gives a lot of references to other movies, and he's like, why did these characters fall in love? There's no reason, etc. He just goes down a whole list of like,
he says, well, hang on, you need to explain it better than that. Because at first he starts off with the why is E.T. brown? And you're like, okay, I mean, I guess there's no reason for that. But then he starts explaining things that clearly have explanations.
Have reasons, yes.
Like in the Pianist, why is this guy treated so poorly when he can play the piano so good? So
yeah,
he also says, like, why can't you see the air? Well, there's fucking scientific reasons why you can't see the fucking air. It's about the human eye. There's not no reason to that.
True. there are a slew of like random things that he mentions that don't have reasons though, and it's like
Sure.
it's nonsensical, and just the way that he sort of like sets up the expectation for this movie to not have any sort of like solid grounding or like intention or message or point of view other than that like life is happenstance and things just are like life is a series of random occurrences and here's a movie of just a bunch of random occurrences, sort of like shoots the movie in the foot to me a little bit, because without that you might be left pondering like, well, I wonder what this movie's about, except for it tells you like right from the get-go that it's not really about much of anything. I mean, I guess you could choose to ignore that and read into it anyways, but I feel like it just kind of does itself a disservice with
Well, it's
that
not a
first
trustworthy
sequence.
thing either, like for the reasons that Justin just pointed out. That,
Yeah.
you know, first of all, he's like, some of the things he's saying are not good examples of what he's talking about. And then, okay, so like just to step back for a second, the thing that I remember most about this movie is the meta aspect, is the audience that is in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, and my experience was pretty similar to what you guys or what Justin was describing, where it's like I watched this. I wouldn't say that my expectations were rock bottom, because I thought, okay, maybe it's going to be like, you think about like a movie like Psycho Gorman, and that seems stupid if you describe it to somebody in a two sentence, you know, explanation of what the movie is. But then you watch it and it's all about how it's done, you know? And if it can be done in a clever way, it can also be done in a really stupid but bombastically over the top way, like Psycho Gorman was, but also, you know, there's ways to make that work. But when you watch this kind of does the, like, it just completely decides to ignore that by having this long monologue that both states a thesis and then subverts it instantly at the same time. So to me, I don't know, I think it's kind of interesting as an experiment, and but that's kind of the thing about this movie, is that it feels more experimental than it feels like a movie.
Yeah, I like if I were to kind of ignore the beginning of that and like read something into this movie, and I think this movie is commenting somewhat on like sort of the Hollywood movie system.
It's
'Cause-
definitely commenting on stuff.
yeah, because it's got like, you know, the cop is sort of like setting the framework of what the film's going to be and explaining it to the audience. The audience is built into the movie. There's a character that's referred to as the accountant, that's sort of like maybe a producer on the movie or something like that. He's doing the bidding of like the Hollywood studio.
A master.
Yeah, the master that calls him on the phone. He's the one that like feeds the audience the poison turkey and like ends up killing them and stuff. So like there seems to be some sort of inner workings, like a production system around the quote random occurrences of this tire coming to life and murdering people. And then of course at the very end, it's like the tire's fed up with the system itself, and it's taken on Hollywood as a whole now, you know, rolling into the Hollywood hills with like its army of tires. So like
Right.
there seems to be something kind of going on here, but it's kind of loosey goosey, and I don't know exactly what the point is the movie is trying to make
That's
or
the thing,
not
is
or not make.
And that, to your point about it shooting itself in the foot, that kind of, yeah, to that end, like there's definitely some comments being made, and it really kind of makes your comments seem unimportant and not worth looking into
Yeah.
if you
yeah.
front load everything with, well, this is just going to happen and you just kind of got to accept it. I understand why that scene is in there, and it's an interesting scene on its own right, where he's
Sure. Yeah.
talking at the camera, he just pours a glass of water on the ground for no reason, and it's just like this really bizarre thing where he's like, look, sometimes in life things just happen, and that's true, but he's like, life isn't just random occurrences. There's reasons things happen, you just don't always know what they are. And so, like, I don't know, it's constant, like it's a little bit of a brain fuck, but not in any way that's consequential. I think that the audience themselves are probably the most interesting part of this movie, which is why they stuck with me, because when I was watching this the first time, I was like, who are these fucking people? Like, the chairs and the comment are one thing, from the cop are one thing, but then you have these people watching with binoculars, and they're clearly stand-ins for an audience, right? Like Rob, you were saying, like, there's clear allegory about making movies specifically, but even generally just about making, you know, artistic statements and things like that. This movie, and there is a history, there's artistic movements that kind of center around the idea of anything can be art, and they're like, beauty is nothing, like Dada movement and shit like that, things that are a response to like what was that, the like, oh, fuck, I don't know. My art history brain is broken at this point. It's been too long since I've looked into that shit. But there's all kinds of like artistic movements that are about subverting the idea of beauty being worth anything, or the idea of art itself being worth anything. Anything can be art if you just call it that. Like that's the Ron Swanson saying, and that's what this movie kind of embraces in some way. I don't think that there's precedent for that, and I think there's some merit to it generally. But usually, what those things are commenting on are things like the way art is done, the way art as commerce works, or the status quo of who gets to make art. In the Middle Ages, it was mostly people patronized by the church, so it was all, Christ-like imagery, at least in the West. And so, I mean, this movie is commenting about the state of its own medium, movies, and on that level, I would like to try and talk about it and engage with it on its own terms. The problem is its terms are muddled and confused by its own adamancy that it doesn't mean anything.
I also think too, I want to bring this up. So I was just looking up, this director's first film was called Non-Film, and then he had a movie called Steak, and then he made Rubber. And the only reason I bring those up is because I also watched one of his more recent films, and the reason I did is because of the Slack channel. I think it was maybe Logan. Sorry, I'm terrible with remembering who says what, but recommended another movie of his that came out in 2019 called Deerskin, and it's currently on HBO Max, which is where I watched it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because also I feel like it's the director, and I feel like he's being cute, or I feel like he knows or plays into this shtick that he has developed for himself. And I see it in a not necessarily like, let me break down the film industry kind of way, but in a kind of smarmy smirkiness that he does these things. Because I will say Deerskin was a movie that I watched, and it was much more, I think it was better made as film. And it's been 9 years since, like, in between when he made that one and Rubber. So I think it's a better crafted film, but it has a very similar kind of idea where, I mean, essentially, if you want to say it in its kind of purest sense, I guess, it's about a deerskin jacket that convinces a man to kill a bunch of people. So it's equally kind of absurdist in some ways. It's just crafted better. And actually, I think I liked it pretty good. It's very strange and weird. But I think he just thinks he's maybe a little more clever than he actually is. And I don't think he was as good of a film, especially with his first film being like non-film. It's almost got this like edgy college kid kind of feel to it. Like, you can't even put me into a box, man. Non-film. Like, he kind of gives me that like feeling a little bit in what he's saying.
He's an artist, man. So yeah,
I mean,
I wanted to mention, I watched an interview. One of the bonus features on the disc here is an interview with the director, because after watching this, I was like, okay, I'm not really sure what this movie's about, but maybe this interview will be somewhat illuminating. And what he says is like, basically he tends to start off with like a visual, and he had this visual in his head of like this tire just rolling around with its own free will, basically. So I guess he set up a camera and like rolled it around in the desert, and the images came out kind of the way he wanted them to. I guess it was very striking, and like that's where it started from. He's like, okay, well, my main character is gonna be this tire. We gotta make a story around it. How are we gonna do that? So it didn't start with like a plot, and I think that is very obvious when you watch this movie, that it didn't start with a plot.
There's barely any plot that exists in this movie.
True, yeah. And he, throughout the interview, didn't really illuminate anything at all. It was also, the interview was shot in a way that just added to like the nonsense of the movie. So like, he was set up in front of the hotel in the movie, and he was being interviewed by somebody who was off camera, but they had like a sex doll set up as if the sex doll was interviewing him. And he was answering in French, but his French audio was played in reverse. So you're reading subtitles in English, but they're not even playing the audio normally anyway. It's like some weird David Lynch fueled interview that I'd never seen an interview like it. I don't know. I was like, I don't know what this dude's trying to do, but it sure is a bold choice to do it, I guess. I don't know.
I think one of the things that annoys me too is that I gotta respect it a little bit, because when this movie starts, I'm like, he's making a movie about a tire that's killing people.
Yeah.
Like, it develops a sense of it's ridiculous, but this tire gets up and it has to develop how it can roll itself, and then it rolls over a bottle, then it blows the bottle up, and it's got this cicada sound, and like it shivers, and it's using its mind or what, and then it drinks from a pond, and it's so ridiculous. And yet the shots are set up in a way to where it makes it believable. But then he throws in this audience, and it's almost like he's mocking he's mocking people. Like, you damn fools, you're watching a movie about a tire that kills people. That's what I almost feel like he's doing with the whole meta thing, where he's like, you damn fools, why are you even watching this movie? I'm like, dude, I gotta respect it a little bit, because you're doing it, like, you're making a movie. But then I'm like, well, fuck you, like, guy.
Let me ask you this. I don't know what you have for trivia, Justin, but I know that as I recall, he made this movie. I read an interview with him, maybe two, where he described part of the reason he made this movie is because his last movie, Steak, he had gone to see it in theaters a few times, and on a number of those occasions, at least twice, I think he said, it was a completely empty house. Like, it was a total failure.
Brutal.
And he was like, so like the idea that there's an audience at all, kind of the idea, I think, is that an audience existing validates a movie's existence, which is why when there's no audience, or they think there's no audience, the cop's like, all right, we can all go home now, and this is over now. But then, because the one guy's still watching, they still have to put on a production, no matter how stupid or ridiculous it becomes, even if they don't have any way to end it. So they're trying to kill the guy, like, and then the accountant kills himself like an idiot for some reason. Anyway, like, the problem is that these metaphors, like, wherever I see a foothold of something, it's like, okay, that could kind of make sense. The movie then comes along 10 minutes later and does something that completely invalidates it or makes it a completely different situation. So it's impossible for me to really cling to a whole lot, which I guess is part of the journey of this movie. I would argue that maybe the biggest sin this movie commits is not any of the stuff we've talked about yet, though. It's really the sin of being boring as fuck. And this is something this is something that those aren't even, like, boring is not my word. The director described this movie as, I guess it kind of turned out pretty boring. I'm sorry about that. Like, he said this in an interview.
Damn.
Which to me says, fuck you. You made people pay for this. So, I'm not going to let Gus Van Sant off for remaking Psycho for the same reason. I'm not going to, like, that was an experiment. If you just do it for yourself, that's one thing. But you made people pay for a movie, and then you gave them the opposite of a movie. And that was not only were, like, all these, like, things happening that didn't make sense. It was intentionally confusing, intentionally, like, giving you these bits and pieces of a point and then taking them away one thing at a time. But you're also making them pay for the privilege of having those things withdrawn from them, withholding those things from them. I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to be like, hey, fuck you a little bit. Like, just because somebody didn't see your movie doesn't give you the right to make people pay $8.50 to watch a movie that you shit out the last 10 minutes.
Well, and see, that's where I almost split this movie in half, in two separate sections, where there's a movie about a killer tire. And to be honest, that's the part I like the most, is like this tire discovering itself, and not in the real sense, but like I said before, I almost have to respect where I'm like, you're doing it. So even the whole scene, even when it blows people's heads off and they ride that train to town, but they do it, and it's consistent, and in the world that they build, it's acceptable and okay. And even to the point where they do this, like, little side scroll, it's like 3 days later or whatever, and you go through the supermarket and everybody's head is explode, and you go through, town and people's heads are exploded. And I'm like, it's effective in its own kind of way. And then the other section is this meta break the fourth wall. There's an audience and I'm going to kill the audience. And there's like a producer or accountant or whatever. And then there's like the audience member who comments on it and like wants to change the ending and feels like that they have a part in the movie and they have a right to the movie and stuff like that. And that's the stuff that I think is just kind of arrogant bullshit. Like honestly, yeah, that's how I feel
that
about
as the
it.
only interesting part of the movie, because the tire parts, like to me, like they could be interesting. They could be interesting on the level like of a Psycho Gorman, where yeah, there's head popping, but there's a bunch of other shit going on that makes it really bombastic and ridiculous. And I think it's because of budgetary constraints. But there's not a lot of that. There's the same popping thing like 10 times. And that's really it. Like it loses its charm after the fucking crow. Like you pop one head and you've seen it head pop. Like I don't need to see the same fucking special effect 20 times. It just didn't do a whole lot for me. It was those were the boring parts to me. The more interesting parts to me were trying to figure out what the allegory is or what the allegories are or whatever that we're told don't matter, but which are clearly half of the fucking movie. Like that audience, like making a comment about the audience by having an audience built into your movie. That's an interesting idea. Whether or not it's, pretentious as shit or whatever, that's a debate to be had. But I think that the bigger sin is being like dull. And that's how I see the rubber tire part. Like after the first few minutes, how long do we spend watching that thing struggling to stand up? How many minutes of it rolling and then falling over do we watch?
I know, but
Jesus Christ.
I honestly found it entertaining. Like I thought, like I guess I like little clever ways of doing things, or like when people discover. So there's a shot, and it's clearly just somebody holding the tire from the back. But the way that
like
it's
every
framed and they kind of shake it around, I was like, oh my God. But they do it in such a cinematic way where I'm like, you fools. Or like, it's almost like you scamp. You're like, I don't know, you're really doing it. And I can see how you're doing it. And I just was okay with that. Even like making it drink from the water and shit.
No, that's funny and stuff, but there's not a whole lot of that. To me, it's like a short film that's been way pushed.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that hard.
I'll agree with
way
that. Yeah.
Should have been a short film.
And that's like for every bit of charm there is to the rubber tire portions, there's like at least a 5-minute sequence of just dull nothing happening, or like just pointless conversations happening. Just a lot of nothing, and that's like for. It's tough to criticize a movie that automatically criticizes itself or sets itself up to be like, well, you're about to see some bullshit. You agreed to it and you're watching it. And like you said, Justin, to that extent, you kind of have to respect, like, well, they called it and I'm still sitting here. So how can I complain about being participant in my own, my own self-torture here? But at the same time, this is a movie, like it's a bit of a scam, this movie.
It is. And I agree that like to me, I think Randy, you and I are on the same page. The tire bits are somewhat boring. The stuff that really kind of had me intrigued was like what's going on with the audience and with these cops and like the nonsense that they're talking about, the accountant getting called from his master. Like I'm more intrigued by that. And I think like as we're discussing this movie and like hearing about the director going to watch his movies in the theater and there not being an audience, like that has to be incredibly frightening for a filmmaker. And it's interesting to like ponder that and like see this movie where he puts an audience in the movie and then kills them. It's sort of like the death of the audience is what really frees you as a filmmaker to go make anything that you want. But also without an audience, you don't get paid, so you don't get to work. You are beholden to them at the end of the day.
There's no return on investment.
Exactly. So you're stuck whether you like it or not. And that leaves us with this movie here. It's sort of like he's wrestling with the idea that whether he likes it or not, he is beholden to the audience. He needs them to show up or else he doesn't have a career. But I guess he's working through that by just killing him in this movie. And also,
that's the thing is like, I don't think it's him killing him. Go ahead, Bobby. I'll cut you off. But
I was going to say, as I was watching this movie and like the audience dies, there's that one dude in the wheelchair left. And I found myself like, as he's like complaining to the cops about like the third act being boring and drawn out, and he's like, why are you playing these cat and mouse games with this mannequin? He's like, why don't you got to go in there with a bazooka or a flamethrower and like light that tire on fire? We need like a big show at the third act, you know. And as this dude was talking, just caused the third act to draw out even more. And I was like, I want this dude to die so the fucking movie will be over. And I felt myself like maybe looking through the lens of the director at that point, like fucking kill this dude so we can roll credits, son. And they finally do, and they do roll credits. And like, even though this movie's like 80 minutes long, dude, it's a bit of a slog. It feels longer than that to me, which is tough because that's short. That's short for a feature film.
Dude, this movie seems long as fuck, especially when you're watching on Tubi, and every 10 minutes there's 2 back-to-back ads for AIDS medications. I don't know what the algorithm believes about me, but I mean,
that is rough. Yeah, I didn't get that ad.
I got the Robert Rubbers ad.
2 different fucking 2 different AIDS related medications advertised to me on every commercial break. I don't know why.
Also, that's another real, just aside, that was something that I discovered that was very strange once I moved to Korea, is that in America we have advertisements for medication. Shouldn't your doctor just give you what you need for your disease?
No, you got to ask your doctor if it's right for you.
Like, what the fuck? That's such a strange thing.
But of course,
I never thought about before.
Tubi told me I needed this.
Dude, I would love to watch you explain to a Korean group of people about not only that, but that the commercials themselves also disclaim all of the side effects. They're like, anal bleeding is to be expected. Your wife may leave you because of your lethargy. Like all kinds of ridiculous shit. Like
divorce.
That's the most grim shit in the world, and we are just desensitized as fuck to that. Anyway, that's
that was a weird thing. That is a whole other thing. Oh, I was gonna say that actually Deerskin, I think, was about the same length. It was short, but it was a bit of a slow burn as well. It was crafted differently, and I was like engaged with it. Like I said, I think that film is just crafted much better, but same kind of deal where it's very short and yet feels much longer than it is. That's weird. That's a very particular skill set to have to make something
skill
so short.
Set. That's a good skill set. I got a very specific skill set.
Skill set. But I just, it was similar. I don't know if all his movies are that short, but also long.
I don't know. But like, I wanted to also point out, like Rob, both of you guys said something along the lines of the director kills the audience, which I mean, yes, obviously the director controls everything about this movie. But to me, like at least contextually within the story, if you're trying to like unwind the metaphor or whatever, if there is one and not just multiple cascading metaphors that just bleed into each other horribly, then you got to note that they are killed specifically by the accountant and the master. And then eventually the they kill everybody. They want people to die. And then the cop who explained all this at the beginning, he's the one that's like, okay, everybody can go home. Everybody's dead. So like that's clearly the studio system, right? Like that seems to be the most obvious correlation I can make, is that this is the audience.
So, yeah.
But once the audience has been tricked into watching this, they are starved for something to watch, and then they're given poison fucking turkey and they die, and so that everybody can go home early. It's a scam. It's pointing out that, like, I think it's pointing out that, you know, the movie industry, at least generally, is just there to trick people into giving money away for what the studio at least doesn't care if it's a good product. They don't care. You know, it's about the return on investment for a lot of these studios. And like, the movies are on the level of, like, say the MCU or whatever. They're only good insofar as they need people to keep buying tickets. You know what I mean? That's the long term. That's the long con. But like, you got these Asylum Pictures or whatever else, and like they found their audience of people that like that sort of thing. But generally, those were invented to trick people into buying Transmorphers instead of Transformers. Like, it's a scam. Like, and I think that's what this is pointing out. And I think that's why the rubber tires and Robert becomes a tricycle and leads a bunch of rubber tires to Hollywood specifically. Because if this is one movie about a rubber tire that's pointless and kills people, including the audience, then here comes all the other rubber tires that are just as pointless. And
Yeah.
these are other movies. There's just a trove of pointless movies on the prowl of Hollywood, is what I see at the end.
That's a good point. Why did the accountant kill himself? Or
I feel like
I
he was
don't know.
unaware that the food was poisoned because he's slamming it
so
happily.
you think he's
I don't think so, because
Yeah, I
he
don't think
poisoned
so
that turkey. He
either.
cut up the turkey himself and cooked
Yeah,
it.
he had the whole briefcase full of poison.
Oh, I forget. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. I don't know.
Um,
That's a good
He's
question.
like, you were supposed to eat this. My stomach hurts. It's like he got
Yeah.
caught up watching the thing, then got bored and started eating. He became part of the audience, so he ended up getting killed too. This movie can't have an audience if you're cold enough to start caring about the actions on screen, like, or if you're stupid enough to start giving a shit instead of, following the orders that is going to get you the most money, then you're expendable too. Like, you can't. I guess that's the point.
If you're hungry enough, you'll eat shit and die.
And that's, I don't know, man. The whole thing, like, and the audience itself was really funny to me for a while there. Like not really funny, but like they were definitely the bright spot, especially in that first part where the tire isn't really doing a whole lot.
I didn't think so. I thought it was too like talking down. I don't know. There was something about it that just seemed so pretentious to me. And then the audience member too, like the one remaining guy. And I think the problem is this is the second week. Last week was much better, but another week, another movie where there's nobody to attach yourself to. For me, as like viewing, there's no central character to follow, nobody you care about. It's just things happening.
Robert the rubber.
Yeah, and so I think maybe that's why I gravitated more to the tire story, because at least it was some semblance of a story. The other one was just I saw it as just somebody preaching at me, and I was like, okay, I get that you kind of have some kind of artistic thing that you want to say. Then I felt like it was like, well, then show me and don't just fucking tell me to my face in a deadpan kind of way. I was like, if you're gonna do it, then make a fucking movie that does it. Don't fucking make a movie so that you can literally build a platform for yourself to stand on to shout it at me. And that's how I felt about it. I felt that audience sequence is just his soapbox.
I mean, okay. I mean, I can see why you would think I would feel that way or whatever. To me, it didn't feel that way for the most part, with the exception of the actual part where the movie is pointing, like the guy is addressing the camera.
Yeah.
He's addressing the fourth wall. And to me, and that didn't even really feel preachy to me so much as like a here's the deal moment. It's like I don't know. It's like to me, it felt like an intro, like you would have in a movie where you have specific set of circumstances that need some sort of explanation, or that you're right. Under normal circumstances in a normal narrative, I would absolutely advocate show, not tell. But I also can kind of appreciate the idea of like, look, this is going to be a weird movie. Here's kind of the reason why. And, I don't think that it did the movie a lot of favors, but I liked the delivery system of have the guy just be like, look, here's what's going on, whatever. And then to introduce you to the audience, and you're trying to figure out, oh, this is like me. This is me watching the movie and like sussing out all those things. I found that to be way more enjoyable than a majority of what we see with the tire. So, I mean, that's different strokes, I guess. At this point in this movie is such that you just kind of got to cling to what speaks to you and hope that it'll carry you to the end. If I had not if this movie hadn't been chosen for the podcast, I probably wouldn't have watched the whole thing a second time. Probably never would have watched it again. But
I want to mention that, like, when you hear the premise of this movie, like there's a sentient tire, it's rolling around, blowing people's heads up because it's got this telekinetic power. That sounds like a blast, right? Like, pun intended. Like, it sounds like super fun. Like, you put this movie on, and yeah, it'd be silly and entertaining because of its silliness.
Yeah.
And this movie isn't that at all. And I guess that's a problem about expectations, perhaps. But like, this movie I would not describe as fun at all, really. There is a dash of silliness, but it's not even really about the tire. It's more about like the cop explaining shit and like dealing with this audience that's sort of silly to me. The tire is like the most grounded part of this movie. Like the way you see him rise up out of the sand and he like kind of discovers that there's this dude burning all of his fellow tires and he like gets real mad about it. And that's why he like seeks vengeance and starts like murdering people
The
like
fact
crazy.
that you can ascribe any emotion to it at all means that there's a story
Sure.
at play, because that is not a
Yeah.
thing that can emote.
Well, and that's
Like-
that's why it's my favorite part, because I look at that and
Yeah,
I
I
say
get
they're doing it. I can describe it like
They're
Bob
really
said.
doing
Yeah,
it.
like you gave this
They're really
tire a motivation.
Yeah.
A tire, like a tire fire. Like
it's definitely the most fleshed out
funny.
character in the movie, for
That's-
sure.
True.
That's funny in a very
No,
like
it's funny in
simplistic
premise.
way, but it does have that campiness, and I feel like almost I was robbed, like because I'm like
Yeah.
they're doing it, yeah, okay, let's go with this, and then it's
It's not
like
far
you
enough.
damn fool, why are you watching this
Yeah.
trash? And I'm like, fuck you.
I guess I
Give
can
me
see
the
that, but
fucking campy tire killing people. That's what I fucking
The thing is,
want.
if they had given the tire killing people and then done the same thing with the audience,
Mhm.
I probably would feel differently towards the tire. The problem is
Mm.
entertainment value is not in this movie. There's some somewhat
Yeah.
intriguing thoughts bouncing around, and there's some mildly charming and funny moments, but there's not enough of either to really cement this movie as a horror, a comedy, or a think piece. This is literally just
Sure.
an experiment. Pulling whatever value you can out of it is all you can do.
Yeah, if
Like,
you make
that's
a
how I feel
movie
about it.
about a tire that blows people's heads up and it turns out to be boring, like you really fucked up somewhere pretty hard.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing is, like, people do love this. Like, the Slack was stoked to watch. I was stoked to watch this movie again for the reason that we talked about, or that Justin pointed out. Like, the first time I watched this movie, I was just so taken aback by the audacity of it, and that's kind of what I want to like lean back to for a positive. I think that this movie is very audacious, and the fact that it exists at all, I kind of like that it exists. Like, I just wish that it was not for pay, you know, like I at least it isn't really now, because I just watched a bunch of
Watch
AIDS
on
commercials and
Tubi.
got paid for it. But
And
and
actually,
I can
since
do
it's so
that.
short, even with the commercials, you probably spent an hour and a half on
it was still only an hour. Yeah, it was still only probably like, it was still less than 2 hours long. But I just like, I like that people make experimental movies or whatever. I'm glad that these sort of weirdo things can get distribution, because it means that every so often you'll get one that is experimental in all the right ways. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I like to have original things, totally off the wall things, to sort of justify something substantial coming along in that space. But this movie on its own merits, to me, doesn't quite hit the funny bone or the think bone, I guess what you would call it. It doesn't hit either of those really particularly well enough to be worth a second watch. It's audacious, but it's not substantive, really.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, thinking about Deerskin, aside from it just being crafted better, there is no soapbox. It's got a wild premise and they stick with it and they see it through. That's what the film is about. And so, yeah, it's about this jacket and it gets crazy, but that's what it's like. I don't want to be talked down to, I guess.
Why
this
not?
film. I don't, and I'm sorry if the guy was going through things like, oh my God, am I a worthless director? Nobody's showing up to my films, but don't take it out on me. Like, as
I don't think he really was.
that's what because even with the final guy, like, okay, so if you take the audience and like the audience is supposed to be you as an audience member, okay? So one, they're either trying to feed them poison, okay? Or, well, first they're trying to sell them bullshit. Then they're trying to feed them poison. And then they feel hassled by the people who actually are asking for some sort of quality in the film that was promised to them. And all of those people are either treated as like dumb pieces of shit or a nuisance, or there's no admirable qualities to the audience. It's always just treated as something that's has to be dealt with. And so I'm like, okay, well, like, I don't know. It feels very condescending.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I guess to me, I stopped identifying with the audience after like maybe the first few minutes of knowing them. Just like I was like, okay, so this isn't an audience. Like I didn't really see myself as part of them, but I see that as commenting on the idea of movie audiences in general, which I guess you could see it that way, but I just don't think that personally because I don't identify with the casual moviegoer really. I don't go to a lot of movies even before COVID. So what I usually seek out what I'm interested in. And so whatever I get is, is my own fault, I guess. But I don't know. I don't see myself the same way that he seems to be painting these people. So I didn't identify with them.
Yeah, I guess it's just toward the general audience in general. Like,
It's like
I
these
don't
are the
know.
audience. This is the audience that a studio would court to trick into, to scam into their bullshit movie. And that doesn't make sense. They don't have to worry about it making sense because they just want to get people intrigued enough to sit down with their binoculars and watch. And it doesn't matter what happens next. But even more, if in this movie, it's just showing the disdain studios have for their audience by being willing to kill them rather than actually try and put forth a quality product.
yeah.
But like you said, it's the movie's doing that itself. So I don't know. You have a point. I just didn't experience it that way really either time.
There's like some semblance of like some characters in here too that I think he just like lets fall by the wayside. It's interesting too because there's a kid in here who kind of is like is onto the tire and tries to alert everyone before it gets out of hand. And it's funny too because in Deerskin there's a kid. There's a kid who like gets in on the scheme like very early on. It's kind of a similar thing where he keeps showing up, watching the killer, watching the tie, like in on, like knowing what's happening. And I don't know. I kind of want to watch one more of this guy's film because right now I'm kind of 50-50 on it. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check out one more of his film. Recommend if anybody, because people were talking on the Slack that they really like this director's style. And that's the thing. He does have a very specific style. And for whatever reason, it kind of reminded me of that Napoleon Dynamite, maybe because it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere, like Napoleon Dynamite is, but it's that kind of quirkiness. And I don't know. It's definitely a style. I don't know if it's necessarily for me,
Like
but
I would
give it
there's
one
also
more shot.
There's like, I don't know about the other movie you're talking about, Justin, but this movie also has very little by way of like music, for example. It's just very stark movie. Like there's no frills really. Certainly no frills in The Monster.
Yeah.
I mean, I won't sit here and say that I knew how they got every shot. I didn't dedicate a whole lot of time thinking about it. But a lot of those shots were just a dude just off camera shaking the fucking tire.
Yeah.
And that's
that
very
shit
obvious
got
and
me.
funny for a few minutes. It was funny for a few minutes, and then the novelty of that wore off the third time you hear the cicadas, and just like, okay, got it.
They did have like a remote controlled tire that they fashioned for the movie, and like all the effects were practical except for, I guess, whenever they would blow up a head, the director ended up not liking how the practical effect looked, so they went back and added like digital gore and blood and stuff. But the tire was apparently like all practical.
That's pretty cool.
The movie was written in 30 days and filmed in 14 days.
I can't believe it took them 14 days to film this.
Yeah, which I mean that's still short.
It is.
That's real short.
Yeah.
There's a lot that happens in this movie, even for a movie where nothing happens.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of different shots you have to get,
Yeah, that's true. I feel like there would have been probably a more clear-cut like theme to pull out of this if like when the tire starts killing people, like they're all kind of faking it. Because we see like the tire blow up a lot of people's heads, and as far as like we can tell, they're actually dead. But then when the cop gets shot, he's like, nope, it's all fake, it's all movie magic. I'm totally fine, told you none of it really mattered. But like, what if the tire could only actually kill audience members, but like anybody who was quote cast in the movie was just fake movie magic? Like there could have been some sort of dichotomy there between like real life and movie magic, and maybe he could have commented on that and that would have given the movie like real stakes. I don't know. Shooting from the hip.
This movie doesn't need more comments. I think it needs to solidify whatever comments it's already making.
Yeah. It's
I see what
very
you're
much,
saying, but like, yeah.
it's two ideas sort of mashed together, and neither one are really fully fleshed out.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like this movie it doesn't have enough of a direction in and of itself. It's just very much shooting from the hip the whole way through.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that as like a director or as a group of artists just flexing and trying to do their own, like trying to do something interesting on the fly. Like there's a reason why they have like, what is it, like the weekend movie festivals or whatever they call those things, where you have like
48
X
hours.
number of days or hours. Yeah, 24-hour movie festivals and shit like that. Like that's interesting in and of itself. And you would expect a movie like this from that. You know what I mean? Maybe not quite, they didn't have quite as much time on their hands to do those sort of things, but like on that level, this is fine. And if you're getting that, that's fine. But my problem would be, I just keep imagining myself paying $13 to go to fucking Regal Cinemas and watch a bombastic, ridiculous tire movie and getting this. This is not this is a snoozer. Like on entertainment value, there's not a lot of it. There just really isn't.
True.
At least not to me. I don't know. The only entertainment comes from the audacity of it being made at all, and trying to suss out what that whole meta narrative is supposed to be.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm completely disengaged from most of the movie.
Dude, this movie got some funny little chuckles from me though. I will say, because I've been harping on it quite a bit. The tire sitting in the chair and watching NASCAR, that's like,
I laughed at that
little,
too.
like those
Yeah,
little
that was
touches.
funny.
Again, you kind of mentioned it earlier, Randy, but I do like the idea that the tire is the most developed character in this film. And I think that's clever. And I feel almost cheated a little bit, because it's almost like I want to go to this guy and say, like, give him more confidence. Like, you could have done it. You could have seen this through. Look, you had it going, and it's almost, I see the audience, it's like, you don't need that crutch. You don't need this like self-doubt, this filler. You could have made a movie about a killer tire. And that's kind of how I feel about it.
Well, I don't know if this is in your trivia or not, but this is
Dude, my
that,
trivia
speaking
is
to that.
nothing. It was like 3 pieces.
Oh, okay. Well, this is another thing like he was talking about in one of the interviews that I read. There was something along the lines of the original idea for this movie, they weren't tires to begin with. The idea was to have cubes from outer space. CGI cubes come from outer space and start like fucking with people for no reason. They have the no reason monologue at the beginning of both. But it was he didn't like the way it looked with the CGI after some tests. So he moved to a tire. He thought it was funny. You know what I mean? And he kept the no reason thing, but then it was just too short. He just didn't have enough to go on. So he was like, well, I'll come up with some other way of talking about it. And that's where the meta narrative comes in. Like that is a discreetly additional part. To me,
and I feel that
like
it's not that discreet.
Yeah, and I can understand. Well, no, I mean, it's just like discreetly separated from the original movie. You know what I mean? At least it was. I guess for the most part, it's not that integrated until you get the guy with the, well, I guess once the cop gets shot and he's like, "See, it's all fake," and like because the audience is dead. Up until that point, the narrative doesn't have anything to do with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was added on. But to me, it's still the most interesting thing. If the movie itself of the tire, if they had been more of a tire watching NASCAR and less of 5 head poppings in a row and interspersed between just rolling, I would have had a different feeling towards it.
Just even when the woman comes into the hotel room and she opens the shower and there's a tire. Like, why is the tire taking a shower?
It's dirty all around the desert.
That show is kind of like funny.
Robert's just a dude, bro.
I don't know. I liked the little tire quirks to it. Also, he's just watching this chick take a shower. That was so weird.
Mm-hmm.
They start talking about, oh, is the tire gonna get some ass? Which is exactly the kind of thing like we would say if we were watching this fucking movie.
Yeah.
I hope Robert wore a Robert. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
yes.
Oh God, yes, come with me.
Come with me.
So now your name just means condom, Bob? Is that what you're pushing?
They call me Condom Bob.
I got me some Robert rubbers, and I never had a kid in not 30 years.
I thought they called you Raw Rob.
Raw dog Rob.
Raw dog Bob.
We gotta land this rubber plane real quick on that landing strip, if you know what I'm saying. Let's go and rate this out of 5.
Ah,
Juice, why don't you kick us off how you feel about rubber?
Yeah, as I said, going into this movie, I had it higher in my mind, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe the first time I watched it, I thought like, oh my God, what is this movie going to be about? A tire? And because, my expectations were so low, then I thought like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then coming in this movie, I thought I couldn't remember anything. And yet I thought like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then I went like, oh, this is kind of bad. So maybe that's part of it. Again, I liked the tire parts. I got chuckles. I found myself like smiling or smirking or like, oh, that's clever, respecting it at least. Like you sly dogs. Even like I always say it, I'll believe anything if you can build a decent world around it. So, okay, this tire comes to life, like you said, sometimes things make no sense, but then they build up its bloodlust, like it kills a scorpion and like it just develops until it sees its tire brothers and sisters being burned and like goes on a rampage. Like at least that follows. It makes sense in a basic way, but at least I don't know. I like those parts. I like that story. I hated any kind of the meta things. Even the whole sequence of the cop being like, there's an alligator under your arm, shoot me, and just all that bullshit. I really, really just wanted a movie about a killer tire. That's what I want. That's what I liked. Everything else I didn't, and I thought made the movie boring. Now, of
that's
course,
interesting because like you're talking about how that very premise is what made you think it would be terrible.
yeah, I know.
And yet that's the thing that
they
you
did
most
it.
want out of it now.
Well, it is because they were on their way to accomplishing that and to like surprising me, and that you're able to make a movie about a killer tire, except that they did ride that head explosion way too hard. Like, come on, there are other practical effects you can do. There's no need to just keep exploding.
He didn't run over one
heads.
person.
Yeah.
This is a tire. A killer tire didn't run over a single person.
Yeah, they could have been more clever with this. And I think they even could have filled it out as a full movie. Like you said, yeah, he could have hid out in a trunk as a spare tire. He could have run over somebody's neck. There's so many like little quirky things you could have done that would have made this movie fill out some. And so on that, I like those pieces. It's not even quite half of the film because I do think, the head explosions stuff were too much. So I'm actually, in the end, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. Because even though it was boring, I still was able to pull some chuckles and some smirks and pull some respect into some ways that they were able to make some semblance of a movie about a killer tire. Like, okay, I'll give that to you, like, because I was on board for it and I actually wish there were more. And so I got to give them that. Like, good job on making me want more tire killings. Like, a good job. I don't know. So yeah, 2 out of 5 for me. Robert.
Yo.
Robert Rubber.
That's me.
Out of 5, what you got?
This movie has a level of like pretension to it that I think as the movie progresses becomes more and more apparent, and it just like really took me out of the movie. Also, like the lack of action and like humor just like makes the movie a bit of a slog. Also, like the beginning monologue, again, I feel like just sort of the movie shoots itself in its own foot here, saying that like nothing really means anything, even this monologue, because some of the things I'm highlighting do actually happen for a reason. So like the whole thing is just bullshit, and it makes the movie less interesting to me if you don't have anything really to say. It's I don't know, man. It's just not for me.
Penetrating you. That's a bummer.
It's always a bummer when the film is not penetrating you. I don't know. It drops the ball on all fronts for me. It's not one that I think really warrants a rewatch. The rewatchability is really low. It's not fun or particularly engaging. It's got some cool head explosions, but like you do that a couple times and you get bored with it. You're like, okay, well, what else is this tire going to do? And it turns out it's not really going to do much. I think it squanders a pretty solidly humorous premise. It does not really cash in on the promise. Here's a killer tire movie, and it does not deliver a killer tire movie. It really doesn't. I'm gonna give this a 1.5. Randu, how do you do?
I do quite well, thank you. I just see this movie as among all of its odd quirks and all of its little charms, and for what I consider like to be a engaging mystery as to what the point is. You know what I mean? Like, I was engaged with that. All those things aside, it's just commits the worst sin of any horror movie, which is it's pretty fucking boring. Like, it just is. I didn't really like. I think the reason that I was drawn more to the meta aspect of it is because it at least gave me something to think about. When I'm watching a tire just roll, it's just a tire rolling. What's there to fucking think about? Like occasionally it'll like do something like sip water and you'll go like, eh, and that's it. And then you move on to the next chuckle 10 minutes fucking later. At least with the fucking people like making dumb jokes at each other or yelling at each other and like eating poison shit, like, or just eating fucking turkey like animals. Like, at least there's something for you to be like, okay, there's at least a mystery to solve. That's the entertainment value that I had to find for myself in order to make it work for me. Now, to Justin's point, I think that this movie, like a killer tire movie taken entirely at like a farcical value, like make it the way you make a Naked Gun movie. Those movies are just rapid fire, like joke delivery systems. You could do something like that. You could make it a Zucker comedy or something like, or you could make it like Psycho Gorman, which is just like bombastic, nostalgic, all this sort. Like, this movie's clearly, at least to me, set around the 80s, based on some of the attire, some of the bands, and some of the TVs and things like that. It's not current day. You could have leaned into that a little bit, given it a little interest with that. There's just not a lot of things for you to like sit and fucking do with your mind while watching this movie. It's not mindlessly entertaining, and it's not entertaining enough to be that, and it's not smart enough to be mindful of anything or to bring to light any issues, really. You just kind of got to make it up and make it work for you. So with all those things in mind, it just doesn't really hit any particular spot of pleasure for me. There's no G-spot touched in this movie, and I do not want to watch it again. But all that said, I applaud this movie for existing. I'm glad that people are experimenting with film this way. I'm glad that people are commenting on their own successes and failures in their movies. I'm interested in that sort of thing. And it may not work in this movie, but it could work in others. So this movie allows other movies like that their chance to exist as well. But other than that, it's just not a whole lot here for me. I can only draw so much entertainment from the occasional chuckle followed by monotonous rolling. So for me, I think it's a 2 flat as well. So an extra, like, 1 being my what I consider my typical bottom, unless I absolutely hate something. 2 would be an additional point for the audacity of the movie's existence alone, and then some like mild chuckles and laughs here and there. 2.
All right. Randu says 2. That's going to put our aggregate at a 1.8. Let's jump into a Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Rubber.
All right, folks. If you're new to the cast, this is the segment in which I'm going to have my co-hosts here guess within the best of their abilities the aggregate scores of both critics and users for this film on RottenTomatoes.com. We're going to start with the critic score. Justin, we'll start with you.
All right.
There are 88 reviews, so I don't think that's enough to certify
That's
anything.
more than I'm pretty surprised by that. Damn. 88. Wow.
88. That's up there.
Wow.
So up there. So 88 reviews from critics, excuse me. What do you think the critics aggregate would be?
Dude, I wouldn't suspect that a lot of critics would like this movie, except maybe they think it's like taking on the Hollywood Mang. Like, yeah, give it to him, Tire Man.
Yeah, stick it to the
Um,
man.
Tire man.
I actually, so I don't know. And 88, that's higher than I thought. I thought this was kind of more of an obscure film. So I don't know. I don't want to go
Pecan.
too high, but I think, the Pecan Film Festival.
Pecan Film Festival.
Okay, well, maybe the critics are sniffing on this one.
Sniffing.
They love that pretension. I'll 69 dude me.
Ooh, oh shit! I gotta get the bump here for you.
69 dudes.
I
There
wasn't
it is.
expecting the comedy number. I don't know why I wasn't.
I
expecting
mean,
the
I
comedy
might
number.
as
It's the
well
perfect movie
for the
that.
yeah. That's 69
All right, Bob, how you
dudes for
feeling?
rubber. You need rubber for
You
69
need,
dudes.
unless they got the clean peen, then you're rocking. You're rocking.
Bob
Gotta
demands
get the clean peen.
peen.
You gotta have a
Sacrifice-
clean peen to use Robert rubbers.
Like
Mhm.
nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
That's another tagline.
Good lord. I'm gonna go with 70%. I'm gonna $1 the
70%.
69 dudes. Mhm.
Now, Bob, I want you to know that the $1 move was a real smart move, but it was in the wrong direction. This is a 68, and Soju's going to take the critic score.
Whoa, that's a hit. That's great. Push your boys.
And that's extra surprising because Rob is a total fraud and totally knew the answer to this, right?
Bob.
I actually apparently didn't because I thought it was 69%. I thought Justin nailed it. Also,
Well,
Juice, I think you dropped a hell skeet on
there is-
accident.
Oh shit.
I'll take it though.
I
Thanks.
did.
Oh, how embarrassing for you.
That is very embarrassing for me. Oh my god.
Thank you.
That's a hell
Oh my
for Soju.
God.
That's fine, I guess.
Oh
Um,
my god.
We can't even
Yeah.
keep our
Oh my
jokes
God.
straight or our lies straight, apparently, Bob.
My life is not straight.
Your lies.
My lives are not straight.
Your lies.
Hey.
Fuckers at a bad time.
Yes.
Usually,
All right, so the
apparently,
critics'
yeah.
Usually.
consensus.
We are off.
The critics' consensus is this. A clever premise gets plenty of comic blood and violence, but is hampered by some questionable storytelling techniques from director Quentin Dupuis.
Quentin Dupuis.
I made whoever said that. I watched on a video.
Dupuis.
Somebody pronounced it that way. Maybe it's Dupuis. I don't. All I know
Dupuis.
is that if it's wrong, it's
Quentin
because that person
Dupuis.
is wrong.
Dupuis.
I'm just mimicking someone else like a fool. So
Like
There
a
you go. Yeah.
fucking
like a
fool.
damn fool.
like a goddamn sheep.
Like an
Um,
American.
Whoa, whoa,
Continue.
whoa. Okay, catch you fuckers at a bad time. Yeah. So I don't think the premise is entirely all that clever. I don't think there was plenty of comic blood and violence, unless you count the same trick over and over as that, which I don't. Hampered by some questionable storytelling techniques. Okay, sure. Yeah, I think that's fair. You guys have
Yeah.
any feelings on those?
That's pretty high for critics, honestly, for this
Yeah, you
movie.
gotta-
But like I said, I think they kind of like a little bit of the pretentious nature.
Honestly, I don't think it's the pretension necessarily as it is like it's tough for a professional critic, unlike us. It's tough for a professional critic, I think, to be like, oh, I've never seen anything like that before. Like I feel
Yeah,
like maybe
yeah.
it's unique and it's just like, well, at least it's something I've never seen before. It might count
Huh.
for something with somebody that's makes their living watching movies.
Well, the
I gotta
69
think.
dudes came through for me. They always do.
They always come.
If you were
through.
one shot, you had one to grow on, but sure.
Yeah.
One dude to grow.
Robert's
on.
rubbers, one to grow on.
Bring the clean peen.
Let's go to the audience score. Audience score. Let's start with Rob this time. Rob, how you feeling about the audience on this one? What do you think they're going to give this out of 100 aggregate?
Bob, do you know this one? Are you
Oh, there's,
No,
starting to
there's over
lies
10,000
again?
ratings, by the
I
way.
don't know this one. 10,000, I feel like, is going to be a little more mid with
Yeah.
that high of a number. I'm going to go with the 58%.
58. All right, Soju.
I wanted to go pretty low, but people on the Slack were talking pretty
Mhm.
favorable toward this, which was surprising for me, especially after I watched it and we all seemed to unfortunately be on a very similar page of like, oh, I thought this was better than it was. So that's kind of a bummer. So
Diversity isn't our strong suit here. at Straight
no,
Talk.
sometimes it's really not. I'll just split it down the middle and I'll say 50%.
50 percentile. Well, splitting it down the middle was another good move. Soju, you're going to take this one. It's 46%.
Whoa, that's a hell yeet sweep. I'm taking the hell yeet.
Well,
sweep.
you already gave me the hell skeet, so
no,
you can't hell
I
yeet
said
sweep.
hell skeet for soju.
You didn't.
He just,
You can't skeet yeet
Take-
sweep because that's not
taking it
sweep.
back.
Dude, I'm taking the yeet back, Bob. It's a hell yeet sweep. I haven't had one in a while.
This was my skeet.
Taking
My
it,
hell skeet.
taking
And I'm taking it back.
Taking
I'm
the-
taking
the
them all
yeet
back.
taking the skeet back.
Wait, you're confusing me.
You're taking the skeet back.
I'm
is what you're
taking-
doing.
I'm taking
Just-
yeet to the, to the
Justin is,
top.
All right.
reclaiming the skeet. Is what he's doing.
Damn, recycled.
Give me that
Recycled skeet
skeet.
is not the best
I'm
skeet.
taking it back.
Find.
Anyway, that's our
All
Rotten
right.
Tomato segment.
Thank you.
Let us continue. Are you getting into any trivia?
There wasn't
Yeah.
really. Apparently, this guy's also a DJ. If you wanted to know that, so
DJ
Yeah, it's
Dubois.
DJ Oipo or something
yeah,
like
something
that.
weird.
I
I
don't
think
know.
it was OIZO, but I don't have my phone up
Oizo,
right now.
yeah.
So whatever.
I put a music video that he directed and may have been him. I didn't know that he was a musician at the time when I watched
Maybe.
it or posted it, but I put that on our Slack channel.
Oh,
as
I
well,
haven't seen
one of our
that
Slack
yet.
channels.
Bob was
And-
calling his music videos bullshit earlier.
I was not a fan of that I watched.
Do you remember the name?
The
I
one that
don't,
I posted,
Yeah, I forget what it's
Oh.
called.
Flatland, I think it's called, something like that. Flat something.
It's not for
I
me.
don't know. I thought it was
So
kind of
skip
funny.
Trivia. Anyways,
Cool.
Yeah.
Let
let's
us
go hunting.
Yeah, let us roll into Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Gooder of the week.
Juice, what's a Cooter? Why are we hunting him?
Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' excluse. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a cooter, and we want cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, overall patheticness, and which one did I miss? Shit, I only have 4 fingers up.
I never listened to you. So.
Manipulation, smug arrogance,
Smug
sexual
arrogance,
deviance.
Sexual deviance.
Overall look and attire and
Look and
overall
attire.
patheticness. We are on point tonight.
Yeah, we are.
I'm gonna
we're-
go ahead and make a nomination if I can.
Yeah.
Please nominate Randy.
Let's nominate. I'm not sure that this will hit enough points, but I know that it hits at least one for sure, and that is Robert the Tire.
Yeah, Robert,
Now, Robert the
might
Tire-
hit cooter status.
He certainly hits the look and attire segment because not
A
only is he is
tire?
literally a tire. So the
Looking at
wordplay
a tire,
checks
so
out.
it's it's in there.
The wordplay checks out. That's a 5-star check
Fun.
point there.
Done.
And then
That's
it's
it.
also just quite a look in general. Sexual deviancy, peeps. He's a peeping Tom. He's a little bit of a
Okay.
peeping Robert.
Okay.
He's peeping at this shower girl. Manipulation. I don't know if we have much evidence for that. Do you guys think of anything for that?
Manipulation.
Not really.
I don't think so.
He pretends to be a
can't lie.
tire,
Like-
but he also just is a tire.
Yeah, I don't think he has to do much pretending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't. I feel
really
like
more
there maybe was
prejudice on
one
their part.
instance. Yeah, but okay.
Tires.
I guess not.
Patheticness. I don't really see that.
I will give him some patheticness. He rolls his ass into a pool and can't get out.
Maybe he
I
didn't
think he does
wanna
that
get out.
intentionally Yeah, I think that was a suicide attempt.
Was it? Why though?
I think because that was right after he looked in a mirror for the first time. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think he's like,
Also,
oh
he
shit,
gets
I
run
am a
off
tire.
the road at one point. That's kind of pathetic when he's trying to stalk on that girl. Also, well, all right. I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know for sure. I will go to smug arrogance though, and I will say that I don't know. I think it's pretty quick to want to murder things. I think it's pretty arrogant for your first
I don't
act
know.
as
He
a
saw
sentient
his-
being to be murder.
His brothers and sisters being burned to death.
That not at that point though. Not at the point where
Yeah,
he's like
I guess
blowing
that's
up a
true.
fucking bunny rabbit.
Yeah,
like, that's a little
yeah, the
pathetic.
rabbit and the scorpion and the crow. That's true. That is some pretty smug, arrogant shit.
All the people he kills, for the most part, have some sort of something they've done to him,
Reason,
or just
yeah.
there's some sort of reasoning behind it. But he's also just a sadistic little fuck who likes to kill
He is,
things.
yeah,
so,
he kind of is, yeah. All right.
so I think there's a low level patheticness and a low level arrogance that are tied together for that.
Yeah, and sexual deviance for creeping.
Yeah, I think the creeping counts pretty
Yeah,
high
I
up there.
think Robert the Tire is our first tire cooter.
Wow.
We nailed him. Can we nominate
It's
the
a-
director?
It's not
please?
well tread
Yeah,
territory.
we can nominate.
Let's
the
nominate the
director.
director.
Smug arrogance through the roof.
Yeah, smug arrogance with the inclusion of this
I don't know.
audience.
I think that like if it's directly
Also,
a reaction to people
patheticness.
not seeing your movie is maybe more pathetic than smug.
It's pathetic. I don't know. I guess the way he treats the audience.
It also might, I don't know. Yeah, the thing is, it's a scam, and that's what I keep coming back to.
So
So that's a
manipulation.
little arrogant.
Some
Manipulation. There's some
Bingo.
arrogance. There's some patheticness to it. I think those 3 points. I think they're all tied up in the very
Maybe
act
even
of
a little
creating this
sexual
movie.
deviance because there was no reason for that shower scene.
Well,
And
that's
they're all
actually
commenting
then, like
on her.
every
No reason
fucking
for
horror
anything.
movie is
Like,
fucked.
oh,
every horror movie,
she's
every
got-
movie's
She's got some nice boobs, but her butt, it's okay. It's not great. I don't know. That was a weird spin to me too. I was like, why are we doing
But
this?
But those are characters too.
Wah.
Like, they're not particularly good characters, but they are
Winton.
fleshed out characters. But
Dupew.
Dupeaks.
Quentin
Yeah.
Dupex.
I feel like there's not any real strong cooters because none of it really matters. It's
a
all just
tire.
like
It's the
whatever,
tire,
dog.
Bob. We
All right.
already booked the tire.
We'll get the tire. We got the tire. That's fine. We're burning the rubber.
Robert the tire.
We're burning the rubber.
Raw dog and Robert.
Raw dog Bob. That's
Raw dog and rigatoni.
Did you try to
raw
time it
rigatoni.
up? On point.
We got him. We got the tire locked up and stuff. It's time to let our hair down. We're getting into the social hour. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randu, what you been watching?
It's been a pretty light week for me viewing wise. Mostly just been playing whenever in my free time, been playing Zelda Breath of the Wild as mentioned last week, and just like really trying to get the most out of every inch of that map and just enjoying it as much as possible.
Every
Um,
inch.
And yes, every rubber covered inch.
Damn, this episode.
This episode. Let's see. Okay, the
not
one
for the
thing I will say
mature.
that I've been watching. Well, two things I watched this week besides playing Zelda has been one was something Rob mentioned a few weeks ago called The Orange Years. It's the documentary about early
Yeah.
the birth
Yeah,
and early
nice.
years of Nickelodeon,
Uh-huh.
which I found quite nice to watch. It was very nostalgic. It was very much built for people my age. and
Yeah, that
on my
does sound very
demographic.
nice. I'm
Um,
into all that
you know,
retro
I-
shit.
Yeah.
those retro toys. Yeah, I like that shit. It was pretty good. I think it maybe whitewashed quite a bit. There were some controversies on there that, or that weren't really brought up in there, that weren't really part of our experience as kids, but which we found out about later.
Like the
John
awful
Chris
waffle.
Belushi being a prick. Well, that's the least of our worries. John Chris Belushi is a terrible person. Drake Bell was interviewed in this, and he just pled guilty to soliciting or something of like a 15-year-old girl like this week.
That's not
Yeah,
chill.
it's fucked up.
Bummer.
Yeah, and God, there's just a lot of like little things that I'm just, like, not everything was sunny and roses at the goddamn Nickelodeon studios.
God damn studios.
But for being something that was really more for nostalgic purposes and certainly spoke to my child understanding of Nickelodeon, I enjoyed it quite a bit. The other thing I watched is something that I think we might do a bonus episode on, my first bonus episode, because I'm very much a contributor.
Second, Randy, you
movie-
and I talked about Psycho
Oh, that's
Gourmet.
right.
Like a gourmet.
That's right. We did talk Psycho Gourmet. I keep thinking
Yeah.
of that as a full episode, but yeah, it's because I haven't done any other bonus episodes. But yeah, The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, which is an Ari Aster short of some ill fame, it has come up quite a bit on our Slack channel recently. I finally got down to business and watched the thing, and boy, do I have thoughts about it. So I think that there may be a bonus episode coming our way about that. So I
Let's
kind of want
explore
to
them together, Randy.
Explore the
ourselves
Johnsons
and
together.
The Johnsons.
Do it.
Just wear Robert
It's
rubber.
very bizarre indeed.
Because them peens
Yeah.
ain't clean, dog.
Those are not clean peens for sure. That's really all I got. I don't have a whole lot.
I-
more to say, so.
That's real.
It's one of the episodes you don't want to show your mother.
Yeah, I show my mom all the other ones, though. That's for sure. Juice, what you been
Well,
watching?
She's got to inspect your peens and make sure they're cleans.
No, she doesn't.
I watched the newest episode of Loki. I will say I liked WandaVision, I think, and I liked Winter Soldier. No. What was that called? Captain. Yeah.
Falcon.
Falcon.
Falcon
God.
and Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier. I like that one. I feel like so far it's only episode 3, so we got a ways to go. I'm liking the whole package of Loki the most so far. I feel like WandaVision really had the style, but I didn't really kind of like how things panned out with that. I feel like Winter Soldier had kind of like the heart, but some of like the gang stuff that was going on the side, like the motivations were like a little but so far I kind of like the world that's going on in Loki like overall the most. So hopefully they can hold on to that, deliver it. I really hate this one episode a week retro bullshit. Like I know
You
you got those.
spoiled son of a
I know.
bitch.
Well, they got the episodes. They're not
No,
fucking
they're
making
making
that
them
shit
one a
right
week.
now.
One a week. That's how
Bob's
they
sitting
do
there
it.
with his DVD at a moment's play fucking stack of blues.
Shit that I paid for.
You're
Oh my god.
spoiled juice.
Fucking spoiled.
No, I kind of
Live a privileged life.
I kind of dig it, honestly. Watching one a week, it's nice.
really.
I don't
Yeah.
mind it.
Yeah.
Personally, I wish that I wanted to talk about it more so that I get the most out of that, because that's the main thing,
Yeah.
and that's why they do that, is to give it like the Lost thing, where it's like you wait a week,
Word
and
of
that gives
mouth.
people a
Sure,
week to
yeah.
like
Yeah.
just
Water
run their
cooler
fucking
talk.
mouths about what they think's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how you get the most out of a show like this, really.
Yeah, but I like it. I dig on it. I also watched the strange thing about the Johnson.
The Strange Johnson.
The Johnson.
The Strange Johnson. That's what
That's
it's called.
that short is fucked up, dude.
You see that guy's balls?
Save it for the bonus
Funny.
episode, okay?
Continue.
I watched that as well. Yeah, if you want to watch it, it's on YouTube. It is very fucked up.
It's
Ari
just
Aster, man,
love, Rob.
that dude, he's got some problems. I really think he does.
Maybe. I hope he's all
I
right.
think so. I don't think he is.
Should we give him a hug? Should we
I
go?
don't know.
Maybe a
Yeah,
handshake.
I don't know, that hug might imply some things to him that we can't even imagine. So
Well, just wear Robert rubber, dog.
I also watched as I mentioned before, Deerskin. I would recommend people check that out. I kind of wish we were talking about that, honestly. I really do. It was
that's weird.
it was a super interesting movie and like saved some faith for me in this director. I was like, okay, maybe he's just improved over time, which it seems like he has. I want to check out maybe one more. So that was actually a pretty cool movie. So if you have HBO Max, I would check out Deerskin. Other than that, I think that's all I've been watching. Bob,
Yo,
what you been watching in the past 3 days?
I got a couple movies. I revisited Jennifer's Body. It's one that I hadn't seen since it came
I'll
out
bet
back
you
in the
did.
day. This movie, written by Diablo Cody, it's got Megan Fox in it. I remember when it came out in like 2010, 2011, something like that. I just was uninterested in it because of the presence of Megan Fox. Really, I wasn't about it.
And the tide has really turned on her. Like people are like, because of this movie and other things, they're like, man, we were pretty fucking unfair to Megan Fox about some
yeah,
shit.
I was in
You
that
seen that?
camp. Yeah, I'm definitely in that camp. And when I first watched this movie, I think I had a closed mind to it, really. Revisiting it this week, though, like it's a pretty solid movie. I think there's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to dissect. And I think like Megan Fox's character in the movie is somewhat like, yeah, ditzy's not quite the right word, but she's playing sort of like an airy character, and it's very like it's got like high school sort of lingo in it, and it like back in the day I checked out immediately once I heard like high school girls talking that way. I was like, this just really isn't for me. But there's a lot going on. Like if you're patient with it, you say, well, there's a lot going on. I think there's a lot to really talk about and examine. I think it's a really well crafted movie too. I think Megan Fox does a good fucking job. Actually, everybody does. It's something that if you haven't seen, I think it's worth watching. And if you weren't really about it back in the day, maybe revisit it, throw it on, and maybe your mind will change like mine did. Pretty solid. Also,
I've
I
been
watched.
interested in rewatching that for a while. Actually, I might take you up on that.
Yeah, man, check it out. It's one that I think we should eventually get to on the show. I don't know when that'll be, but I think
it's been like
a lot to talk about.
I feel like, and correct, I don't know if you know this or correct me if I'm wrong, or if you know that this, I don't know, but I think that there's been like a lot of people, like sort of the tide turning, part of the tide turning on Megan Fox in this movie in particular is because this movie has like some heavy feminist themes or something along those lines. Did you get that when you watched?
Yeah, there's feminist themes amongst a lot of other stuff.
Okay, I just didn't know like
right
if
now,
I was
really.
remembering that right.
Yeah, there's it's got some layers. To
Okay,
it.
okay. I don't want to talk about it.
It's
okay.
got
All right.
layers.
I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry.
I want to talk about it, Dad. The other movie I watched this week, first time watch for me, is a movie called Promising Young Woman. It's a fairly new movie. Dude, I really enjoyed it. It won a handful of Oscars, I believe, last year. It's like a beautifully crafted movie. It's definitely tackling some difficult subject matter. It's not entirely a rape revenge movie, but in a way it is. It's sort of adjacent to that. It doesn't show the act, but it does allude to it, and it deals directly with that. Really strong performances in this movie, and it deals with heavy subject matter. And I was like, I knew that going into it, but even when the third act sort of happens, it took a turn that was like heavier than I was ready for based on the previous like hour that I just sat through. Man, it's a bit of a gut punch, that's for sure. It's a well-paced, really well-crafted movie. I highly recommend watching it if you're all right with watching a movie that tackles that sort of subject matter. I would really recommend checking that out. It's a good movie, man.
Is that streaming or did you blue it?
I blued it, but it's streaming. You can rent it. It's not like sitting on Hulu for you, but you can rent it for a few bucks off like Amazon or iTunes or whatever. Yeah. Check it out. That's really all I've been watching the past few days. We got one more segment to get into, and of course, that is our hotline screen.
Hotline screen.
If you are listening and would like to call in, leave us a voicemail, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got two voicemails. First up, we're going to hear from old G-Baby. G-Baby.
You know how much I love you, Daddy, but if you don't mind, I'm only gonna kiss you on the cheek this time. Hey, what's up, crew? It's G Baby calling in. Giving my most disturbing part from the old Butterfly Kisses song. Man, what a creepy ass song. Super fun episode. You guys had a good time with it. The movie was dope too. Shout out to Simon. I really enjoyed it. I got to think for found footage, kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, but it was cool to add another solid entry to that mix. Yeah, fuck that song, Butterfly Kisses. It makes me think, and I'm not trying to shame anyone who likes to kiss their kids on the lips, whatever, that's fine. It's not for me, especially having a girl. It just don't seem right for a dad to kiss on the lips. Even the girl knew it in the song. I'll kiss my daughter all day on the forehead or the top of her head, her cheek. That's fine. But I remember one time I was at it was like a work, picnic that they threw on for everyone. And this gal who worked there, her husband showed up, and they had a son who was like 16, 17, 18, something like that. And when he showed up, he full on man kissed his dad on the lips. And I was like, what the fuck, man? That's fucked up. Anyway, made me think of that weird, disturbing story. Yeah, great episode. And a palate cleanser for that fucking Butterfly Kiss song. Turn yourself on to Darius Rucker. It won't be like this for long. That's a fucking grade A banger. And we'll wipe away the stain, the old Butterfly Kiss. Butterfly Kiss. All right. Keep chilling. Take care, fellas. Randu.
Yeah.
Dude,
Hell yeah.
It's still going. Dude, I don't know if I could handle that shit. An 18-year-old boy kissing his dad on the mouth?
Wasn't there a Meat Canyon about that?
I'm
pretty sure I saw
it was from Tom Brady when he won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
And
it was but his son is still like younger 10. It's still weird because I don't know if it was in the Meat Canyon thing or if I've just seen it. It was a compilation public clip of Tom Brady kissing his son like on the mouth, like in many, 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 many instances. Weird. And it's disturbing to me. It's weird. It's very strange. So I can't even imagine an 18-year-old kissing their dad on the mouth. Honestly, even when he was reading the lyrics to the song and I was thinking about it again, I was like, where else would she kiss her fucking dad? It's talking about like her 16th birthday party. Where the fuck would she kiss her dad if not on the cheek? Like, what? Why? I don't know. That's weird.
It is
the
weird.
Dick tip.
It's too intimate to kiss somebody on the mouth.
I also want to highlight the fact,
Daddy, I don't want to kiss you on the dick tip anymore.
That's heinous. I want to highlight the fact that Jim G Baby's coworkers are fucking into some crazy shit, man. Because he was the guy that called in and told us about his coworker that was into the glass bottom boat where your wife shits on the glass table while you're laying underneath it, and you like that shit, dude. Who are your coworkers? Like, what's going on in your life, man? That's wild.
I don't know, man. I got some stories from the Galleria,
dude. G Baby's coworkers.
We know.
Yeah, actually, you got some wild fucking stuff.
You got some tales.
Some weird workplaces out there in old America.
Dear Penthouse, this one's called The Crack of Her Leg.
Damn.
But yeah,
well,
this is thank you.
Thanks for calling, Jim.
Thank you for calling, Jim. I got caught up thinking about that story again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. Always good to hear from you, buddy. We got one more voicemail. Next up, we're hearing from Juan Burgundy.
Well, if it isn't the Straight Chilling Podcast. It's your old pal, Juan Burgundy here, calling from my home in Unique, New York. My house that's, by the way, smothered in rich mahogany and full of many leather-bound books. I'm kind of a big deal here, but just wanted to send out some butterfly kisses and tell you, in honor of the movie this week, I went out and bought all new tires for my vehicle. Not to brag, it's a 2014 Toyota RAV4. It's one of the classiest vehicles a human being might ever hope to own. Some may even call it a obsequious gesture, buying tires to support a movie about a tire. But to me, that's just downright class. That's classy as shit. Well, old Juan has been listening for some time, and I gotta say, the podcast is straight up dope to the top. The Joe Bob watch parties have been killer, man. Even if a certain Mr. Randu can't do the time to join one ever. But I just wanted to say shout out to all the squad, all the drunken, insipidous nights we've ever spent staying up way too late and not getting anything done, the next day. But I don't know if insipidous is really a word. It's kind of like, sportively, maybe also not a word, but you get the gist. It's hopefully we can get together sometime again. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you for hosting, Bob. This has been great. And you stay classy, straight chilling. I'm Juan Burgundy.
There you go.
All right, we got
Juan
some characters that call into the old hotline screen, don't we?
We do. An interesting bunch. And of course, why not? Have you heard the fucking podcast? It's hard for us to stay classy, by the way. I don't know that we've ever been classy.
How about get classy?
You got to start to stay.
Get classy.
Why don't you go ahead and get classy, straight chilling crew?
Get some fucking class, straight chilling is a more appropriate thing for us.
Manufacture some
also,
class.
For those who are as curious as I was, obsequious, adjective, obedient or attentive to an excessive or servile degree. There you go.
Wow.
Obsequious.
Sounds like someone has a daddy kink.
Someone does. It's one.
I don't know who
Burgundy.
that could be. Wait a minute.
I have a daddy kink.
Oh, it's you.
Right on cue, Randy, as always. I love it.
Perfect cue.
Nailed
After just
it.
some minor stretching.
I wonder who
could
be.
think such a thing. Yes,
Oh,
thanks for
Juan.
calling, Juan.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Juan.
That-
Thanks for
that
hanging
was-
out
hey,
for Joe Bob. It was tight hanging out with the crew. Also, Joe Bob renewed for season 4 next year. That's it.
Despite
Continue.
despite y'all's best efforts to have people call in and give me shit, that was the worst I've gotten.
That's true.
So, hey,
Yeah.
Come on, people.
feeling
step
pretty
it
good
up.
about my chances.
Shit on
You
Randy.
guys roast my ass, spit roast me.
Damn. Yeah. Well,
Sounds
now
like we got a new little sound bump there.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Can't
Randy,
sleep on that one.
Randy's asking for it now. Now you have to deliver. He wants it. He wants it.
I love a good roast.
When it comes to Joe Bob watch parties, Randu says can't do. Sorry, Juan. Sorry to say. Thanks for calling in, everybody. Again, if you want to hit us up, you can do so at 904-638-3231. Don't forget, Straight Chilling's here to solve your problems. All of them. Every single one. We're here to solve them. Call in with your problems. Can't stress that enough.
This is not legal
we
advice
need to be
or any
solving some
advice.
shit over here.
You got a mystery. You got a ghost haunting your amusement park. Let us know.
Scooby-Doo
We'll solve it.
problems? We'll solve those too.
Dude, maybe
Yeah.
we
And you wanna
could.
I want to solve your Scooby-Doo problems. Like, listen, guys, we could make a straight chillin' Scooby-Doo style cartoon show. We could make it happen. We just got to start pitching it to the right people, baby. Let's do this
Randu
shit.
says Scooby-Doo can do.
Randu doo doo doo.
I think it worked out real well.
I can tell that that's not true, but thank you.
A Randoobie snack? Would you like one of those?
I'm randubious that this will work.
Randubious. DJ Rand Dubious on the ones and twos. Oh boy. Yeah, that's gonna do it for us here at Straight Chilling. What a fucking show that was.
Yeah. Whoa.
We'll be back.
Probably appropriate for this movie.
Probably. We'll be back
It's
next
about
week.
as comprehensible, sure.
As always, with a brand new episode. We're going to be talking about the winner of the July poll pick, which, as of now, looks like it's going to be Jaws. Still a few days left since we're recording this episode a little early. So if shit changes, sorry, this is a lie. But we're probably talking about
Even
Jaws.
if we were recording it on Sunday, it'd still be a few days before the poll closes.
Well, we're not recording it on Sunday.
That's true.
It's even more days.
Maybe I'm
Well,
stupid.
Maybe.
Even more days.
Oof, let's end this podcast.
Yeah. So keep your earballs peeled for Jaws coming down the pike. Also, don't forget the U Pick opens probably the day you're listening to this, which is Sunday, June 27th, 2021. Until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can hit us up on Twitter at str8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, let us know on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can do so. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Pumpkins.